Hello, everyone. I am excited to introduce Arlena Allen, who has been on the podcast before. But today we're going to talk about something very, very special. And that is her program, the Reinvent program and the Reinvent workshop. And her workshop is all about rebuilding self-esteem and ending self-sabotage so you can live the life that you want to live, that you desire. And she is going to talk about this 7-week workshop, and we're going to go into a little bit of detail. She's going to provide context to it. And Arlena, take it from there.
Yay, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be talking about this. This is like my favorite thing to
Me
talk
too.
about, just
Me too.
really getting into, you know, helping people, in that we all have goals, right? And
Mhm.
we oftentimes, here's the funny thing, everybody knows what to do, but it's applying the information that is the tricky part, right? So
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can say that for myself too. It's
I
like
know,
the
me too.
knowledge is only the first part, but having that place where you actually apply it and do it and work it, that makes all the difference.
Yeah. And the reason I teach this information in a workshop setting is because I'm leveraging the instinct that most of us have that we will do for others what we won't do for ourselves, right? And if we know that our other students or friends are taking the class too, we will show up for others. And we do the work in class, right? It's a workshop. So each of the 7 weeks, we are actually doing the work together in class. So you build community, it gives you momentum, you have connections, you feel a part of something bigger than you. And then you're
Yeah,
also applying the actual information to your own life. And so we're invoking cause and effect. And it's a really
right.
interesting, yeah, right. So it's really an interesting way to start rewiring your brain and really changing the way you think about yourself, what you're capable of, what you're worth. It's all about that. And we're actually going to be addressing the right problem to solve. I think in my mind, and I'll jump into the presentation now if you don't mind, because it's sort of a
Well,
natural.
yeah, definitely. I just want to add, like being able to do this with other people, I have found personally that's where I've had the most change in my own life was when I got with other people and did the work together with trusted other people. And that's what I love about your program is that it puts like-minded people together who want to change, who want to make a difference. And then you say, here's the work we can do. Let's do it. Let's do it together.
Right. Yeah. There's power when we join
Yeah,
forces together, right? So
absolutely.
yeah. So I always start off the presentation with the sort of overarching idea, which is how to fix the one thing that affects your romance, finance, and fitness, right? Because all of our
Right.
problems we think of our problems, this is part of the problem, is we think of our problems as being outside of us, right? Like if I had
Mhm.
the right partner, enough money, or the right pant size, or the scale said the
Whatever.
right
Yeah.
thing, then I would be happy, right? But that's actually, it works just the opposite. So, what we're going to talk about is how to fix the one thing and without falling back into those self-sabotaging patterns, because I feel like everybody has made progress in areas and then something happens and then we go back to our old ways. So that's what we're really going
Yeah.
to address here, is how to do it without falling back into those self-sabotaging patterns.
Awesome.
Okay, so hopefully all my slides will work. So the theme of the class is the idea that we only allow into our lives what we believe we deserve on a subconscious level. So as I was saying before, you know, look to your outside, because your outside manifestation is a reflection of your internal belief system. And that's really what we're going to get at here, is your internal belief system. It affects the people, the relationships that you have. It affects your bank account, and it affects your body, like how you treat your body.
Right.
And really, when we change those beliefs about what we deserve, then everything else changes. Because it's like, I'm sure you've seen this too, Duane, like, people accept bad behavior in relationships, right? And
Yeah.
so we teach people how to treat us. And so if we don't feel like we have a voice, or we're scared to say what it is that we need to say, we're not able to communicate our needs and wants. And so we end up, right?
Right. Oh, yeah. No, totally.
We end up in relationships that really actually damage our self-esteem and reinforce negative belief systems. It
Yeah.
also,
We believe we can't be, we can't have that or we don't deserve that. We tend to, we'll follow that belief.
yeah, we make it's scary. The sad thing is that we make decisions from that place about what we deserve, what we're capable of, what we're worth. And it translates to the work environment too. If you don't have the confidence to ask for the raise or charge what you're worth, if you're in like a service profession, um, that really is reflected in how much money you make, right? And then
Yeah.
again, or even keeping the money, because I've seen people receive money and they spend it the second they get it. Like they're
Right.
uncomfortable holding wealth, right?
Yeah.
So
No.
receiving money, holding money is challenging. So, because, a lot of times, and I've done this myself, it's like that idea of retail therapy. I'll spend a little bit
Yeah.
of money. Who doesn't love
Right.
a little retail therapy?
You
Right.
feel a little bit better in the moment and then everything returns to normal and your beliefs don't really change.
Your beliefs don't change at all, right?
You're back in the
Um,
same space you were, and it doesn't feel very good.
It doesn't. Yeah, those ego-based, we were talking earlier about purchasing things. Things don't really are not very satisfying in the long run. So what we're really looking for in this whole mindset shift, this whole paradigm shift, is lasting change and lasting peace and lasting fulfillment. And it also is reflective in how we care for our bodies too, right? It's easy to fix your feelings with food, or Netflix is a thing. I've been in denial about it, but if I'm binge watching TV hours on end, I could be outside exercising or walking or doing
Right.
something besides feeding my face and zoning out on the couch.
Right. And I would also say sometimes we don't know what our beliefs are, some of our deeper beliefs, and we need the feedback from other people to help us see these kind of deep-rooted beliefs that have become automatic for us that are destructive. And that's can be really, really helpful. And doing that in a workshop format is also really beneficial because you get that feedback, you get to see it, you get to know it.
That is such a good point, that most of us don't even know what our beliefs are, right? And so that's
Yeah.
that's definitely something we address in the class. And we also don't realize how powerful our beliefs are, right? And so we
Yeah.
talk a lot about that, but I just want to, sort of do a little level set here and talk about, it is not your fault that your beliefs are the way they are. So we don't choose our subconscious beliefs intentionally usually, especially not in the beginning, because our subconscious beliefs are developed in childhood, right? This is how the brain works. We have these subconscious beliefs because our brains are actually very efficient, right? Our brain's job is to think. It also consumes a disproportionate amount of resources from our bodies. So the brain needs to be efficient. And so we tend to operate in neuroscience terms called the default mode network. I'll talk a little bit about that. But the reason it's not your fault is because when we're children, we are not in control of our environment. We learn to please the adults in our lives who are in control of our environment. And they are sometimes not capable of meeting our needs. And so we learn to disassociate from our own feelings, to deny, suppress our own wants and needs to please the adults in our lives so that we can get what we need, right?
Yep.
and
Yep.
then and then what happens is we extrapolate meaning from experiences, and it's negative, right? We have this negativity bias where we tend to come to disempowering conclusions. It's like your mom or your dad snapped at you and told you you were selfish because you were being demanding. Well, we internalize that as I'm a bad person, or my needs and wants are not valid, or I need to achieve in order to receive approval. We start to develop all these beliefs about ourselves, really.
Yeah.
And that becomes the brain's default mode network, and it's very difficult. It's like your operating system, and so that's how it's established in childhood. And the funny thing about subconscious beliefs is they don't need to be rooted in truth, right? A subconscious belief is an idea that is repeated until it's accepted by your subconscious mind as the truth, but it doesn't even need to be.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I'm
we
sure
get
you've seen
lost
that
there, and
too.
it's so, yeah, oh yeah, and it happens so fast and automatic that I think much of the time we don't even realize we're doing it. It's just like it just happens. It's like, oh my gosh, how did that just, we make the decision and we're like, that wasn't
Yeah.
really what I wanted, or but we don't even know why, because we don't know what our underlying beliefs are.
Right. Yeah. It's fascinating to me. The good news is all this can be reprogrammed, but it does require some intentional awareness.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, and so I just wanted to touch a little, I just wanted to provide a little bit of context around negativity bias. We do tend to focus on negative things. I think we've seen that in like politics. I'm not going to get
Yeah.
into it, but it's born out of this primordial need for survival, right? So
Yeah.
when we're kids and we go into survival mode, we do tend to look for the danger, right? It's a human instinct to look for danger so that we can survive. And so, but what ends up happening is that we become focused on negative things, and then we develop this bias. And the bias is that um, we make decisions and then we only look for information to support that bias. That's confirmation bias. But the negativity bias is interesting because it's born out of this need for survival, right? So it doesn't mean that we're bad people. It means it's our instinct to survive. But the National Science Foundation did this study where they examined how many thoughts we have per day. And so it was established that we have 60,000 to 80,000 thoughts per day. 85% of those thoughts are negative.
Oh my
And
gosh.
isn't that crazy? And
Yeah. That's
95%
great
of those
numbers.
thoughts are the same as the day before. So if you think about it, uh,
Whoa.
isn't that wild? Yeah,
That's
they're
crazy.
the same thoughts. And so we wake up and we have this set of information. In neuroscience, it's the default mode network. It's like your operating system. We've come to conclusions about a bunch of things. And so with this information, we make decisions. And then based off those decisions, we take actions. And then from those actions, we invoke the law of cause and effect, right? So if we treat this as an experiment, like you take emotion out of it and judgment and shame, and all, we just set that aside. This is really about an experiment of cause and effect. And what we're really doing is trying to get to the cause, which is the subconscious belief systems, right?
Right. Yeah, definitely.
And so what's crazy about the idea that we are living in Groundhog Day. Like today, you and I are living in the residual of all of yesterday's thoughts, feelings, and actions and decisions, right? The clothes we wear, the jobs we do, the environments that we're in are a series of decisions that brought us to this point, into how we spend our time, all that is. And so if we want something different, we have to start introducing new information, right? And so that's sort of it just gives you a little context around negativity bias. Like, where does it all start?
Yeah,
And,
it's part of our biology. It's
yeah,
it's part of it's part of what it means to be human. But as you're saying, and I think what you're leading to is we have some ability to shift that and change that.
absolutely. We do. We have, and let me just go on to the next part because that's really a perfect segue, right? We're talking about neuroplasticity here, which is the ability to change thought patterns. Neuroplasticity is a thing. The thing is that so your brain is set up with, the default mode network. It's a series. Your brain is a series of neurons connected, and they're tied to visualizations, to specific thought patterns, right? We trigger thought patterns, which trigger, images and feelings. And then in our body, we respond. Have you read that book? He talks about the issues are in the tissues that, oh, I'm drawing a blank on the book
It
name, but
keeps score. The body
yeah,
keeps
the
the score.
body keeps the score thing. I knew you would know. You're so smart. Yes, the body keeps the score, right? So it's like our body is the unconscious mind, right? Like, how many times have you driven to work and you arrive at work and you're like, how did I even get here? Like, I was not
Yeah, you don't
even,
even know. You're like, I'm here, and I don't even remember the drive.
I don't even
So,
remember the drive, right? Our body is the unconscious mind.
mhm.
But really what we're going to do is start with the brain and neuroplasticity, because your brain is currently wired to be efficient, and neuroplasticity lends to the idea that you can change your thought patterns. We can use conscious awareness to literally rewire our brains, because they say that neurons that fire together wire together, and that's the brain's way of being efficient, so that we can do these thought patterns, and so the brain can be efficient. And so we actually, with some conscious awareness, right, start to be intentional about what it is that we think and feel, so that we rewire our brain. And the brain goes through this process of pruning those neurons that are not firing together. They prune, right? And so they don't, people talk about how they get emotionally triggered. They're invoking this neural pathway of thinking and feeling, and then your body starts to react from those thoughts and feelings. So we can actually completely rewire our brain with the concept of neuroplasticity. It's the nice thing is that you don't need to have faith that it works. We have science, we have evidence-based science. So we don't need to, it's not something that you have to have faith in, right? It's just we have evidence, we have science. So I love
Yeah,
leveraging that as well.
that's what makes it so exciting, and just really
Yeah.
lays out the possibilities that
Yeah.
we can change our brain with a little bit of that. Well, sometimes it's a lot of effort, but if you have the right kind of structure and you do it, your brain is going to change. We just know that now. Like, that's not debated.
It's
It
yeah.
happens. There are limits to that, but at the same time, we can do a lot. We can influence that a lot just by what our choices are and what we're even choosing to think about,
Right. What we're
which is
choosing to think about. And I'll flash forward maybe to the first class. The first class in the self-esteem class is we talk about what is your why? Why are you focused and committed to being intentional about changing your self-esteem? And it typically ends up in this place of philanthropy, of purpose, peace, affecting other people's lives, like finding peace for ourselves. But we also think about how the changes in us affect the people around us, and how we can have such an impact, such a positive impact on other people's lives. That goes back to that idea that we will do for others what we won't do for ourselves. But
yeah.
I start with what is your why? Because in the morning, when you wake up, your unconscious mind, which is your body, wants to go through its normal routine. And we are going to be tempted to just check the email real quick, just go grab a cup of, there's nothing wrong with grabbing a cup of coffee and getting settled in for your day. But the temptation will be to address somebody else's need first, or whatever your compulsive routine is, to do that first. But what I'm suggesting is that you do your self-care practice first. And what's going to help you make the choice when you stand at the crossroads, you wake up in the morning, you'll be like, oh, I'm supposed to do my self-care. Do I want to do my self-care practice, which is usually no? Or do I want to I'm just going to answer the email. I'm just going to do this is the lie. I'm just going to do this other thing first, and then I will do my self-care practice. And a
Right.
lot of times we just delay so long that then we cannot or don't have time to do the self-care practice, which is the process of rewiring your brain. So
And we run out of energy as the day goes by. We run out of
yes,
energy our brain runs out of energy. The longer we are awake, the harder and harder it gets to make decisions that kind of go against the default network. So doing it
absolutely.
early in the morning is I think is really critical.
There's an idea of attention units. You only have so many attention units per day. And so it's
Yeah,
important that we use our mental energy when it's the strongest first thing in the day. That's why I'm pretty adamant about this should be a morning practice because we do run out of attention units by the
yeah,
end of the day. We all suffer from decision fatigue. We all have so much going on. And by the end of the day, our brain is fatigued. So it's better to work it out when you have the
yeah.
energy for it,
I,
right?
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so um, I'm just going to go back to the idea that your self-esteem is the key. When you raise the level of your self-esteem, you'll be actually solving the right problem to make lasting changes in all your lives. Because when you start to believe that you deserve better things and you put your self-esteem first by doing the morning self-care practice, which rewires your brain and changes your internal belief systems, that's when you can actually maintain over a long period of time the thoughts and behaviors, the cause and effect that lead to those changes that we're looking for, which is the external, which is, listen, we should all have better relationships. We should all have better financial health and, physical health too, right? But circumventing, thinking the scale is going to make me feel like I have arrived, like that's an error in thinking. And so that's why self-esteem is the key, because that's really the tide that rises. What's that? A rising tide raises all boats, right?
Yep,
So
yep.
that's what we're going to work from. So I let's see, my slides don't always work amazing. And we talked about this already, right? Change is possible. And so really, the idea is that we leverage neuroplasticity, you can feel more confident, right? Everybody needs confidence to reach their goals. And it's really the idea that we put ourselves first, right? Sometimes we think that self-care is selfish, but it's not, because when we put ourselves first, then we can be better service to others. And that's the idea of, putting yourself first without feeling guilty. What's interesting about the default mode network is it's sort of like a thermostat. You don't get too high, you don't get too low. We live in what is commonly known as our comfort zone, right? And
Right.
when we try to break out of that default mode network, our subconscious mind will serve up all kinds of fears and doubts, right? And your subconscious mind, it knows where all the bodies are buried. It knows all your weak points. It knows exactly what to
Yeah,
say to you so that it invokes all your fears. And so part of the class is paying attention and recognizing when we fall into the trance of unworthiness, when we fall into the trance of fear, which is false evidence appearing real, right? So
yeah,
it's important to have some tactical strategies to smash all those fears and doubt. And the result is that we create a life of freedom. Like, who doesn't want freedom to choose how you spend your time or who you spend your time with, or the kinds of experiences we were talking earlier about? People, or
right,
true
right.
happiness comes from having the experiences, right? And so having the freedom to choose those is really important.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But so we kind of touched on this, but what I want to talk about is the disconnect. So it's the lack of information is not the problem. The trick is solving the right problem. So, it's knowing what problem to solve. It's not necessarily the right food plan, the right budget, the right relationship, dating tactics. It's about focusing on the internal, right? It's the internal locus of control, as opposed to being, a lot of people are addicted to external validation, right? So we're shifting that inward because that's what you really have control over. And that's what helps you maintain progress without being self-sabotaged. Because when we are reliant upon things that are outside of ourselves, that's when that's when other people are in
It's like the
control.
up and down because it's not in your control and you're waiting for someone else to help you feel better or change or whatever. It doesn't work in the long run.
It doesn't work. And then we go to the negativity bias and then we think, oh, there must be something wrong with me. Isn't
Right.
that
And then
sad?
the
We
cycle
all,
continues, right?
and then the
We're
cycle
like,
continues.
the
We
cycle
blame
continues.
ourselves in some way. Tara Brach does this meditation. It's called the RAIN meditation. It stands for recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. And that's something I I hammer home all the time. But she talks
I
about
just
how,
got that from one of your emails, and I
oh
love Tarot
yeah,
Rock, but I hadn't listened to that specific one, the rain one, and
yeah, so
I
good.
loved it. It was so good.
Yeah, she talks about where are we at war with ourselves? Like
Yep.
something happens, and so many of us have a negative interaction, and then we walk away and we blame ourselves. Like, even if we initially are like, he did this and she did that, and all that, ultimately, when that voice quiets down, it's like, what's wrong with me? Right. And
Hmm.
it's so sad and so unnecessary. So, um, for all these things are to support the self-esteem growth and let go of those, negative biases and ego driven arguments that are so destructive to everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, and so ta-da, this is where I come in. You got to take my class.
There you go. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I just want to say that I'm not coming from some high place, descending to help others. I do this because there's this idea that, we teach what we need to learn, right? And in my
Yep.
house, I was not raised with good coping skills, right? Just like everyone else, um, it was in a house where we didn't really do feelings. My mom had two primary feelings. She was either really happy or really angry. And I felt she saved the happy face for the outside world. And, to give my mom a break, I'm, a middle-aged woman with two kids myself. And so I know how hard it is to raise kids. And I am not perfect. I have yelled at my kids. And I wonder, did they walk away with the same
Right. Yeah.
self talk that I did, which is, oh, my mom's mad at me. I must be bad, or I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough. And so it's just part of the human cycle, right? And so we just really need to start reintroduce as often as necessary all these coping skills so that we can raise the level of our self-esteem. And I've been able to do it myself. I've been in a healthy relationship. Let's see. Oh my gosh, I'm embarrassed. I like to say 26 years. It's been a long time. So far, so
That's
good.
awesome. Yeah, but
Yeah.
that also, shows that you can relate,
Oh
like
yeah.
being on the other side of pain and low self-esteem and low self-worth and not being able to be compassionate and going to the outside world to help yourself feel better through addiction. You know what it's like. You've experienced it. You've had it.
100%.
You can relate.
Yeah, no, my low points included suicide ideation. I hated who I was. I wanted to be anybody but me. I tried to fix myself through relationships, through working, through achievement. I was like a super achievement junkie, which
Yeah.
led to constant failure and burnout and just that sadness and despair where you feel like I am broken, right? Those ideas, I am
Right.
broken and this will never change. That's a very dark place to be in, right? But
Mhm.
I was fortunate enough that, oops, my slides are going the wrong way. Isn't that fun?
Right. That's okay. It all works that way. I mean, I
Yeah.
was just going to add, as you were talking, I was thinking, like when you're able to get to the other side of it,
Mhm.
there is almost this desire to help other people because you when you learn to have your own self-esteem, learn to be self-compassionate, and you see other people suffering, and you know that this is changeable, they don't have to suffer. It's like you just are driven to want to give that to them. It's like, here, let me help you. I've been there. I know what it's like. You don't have to suffer. You can do something different. Here are the tools that worked for me. I want to give them to you. Come, you know, help me do that. Help me give them to you.
Yeah. Help me help you. Just like
Yeah.
Jerry Maguire, remember?
Yeah.
Help me
Yeah.
help you. No,
Yeah.
and it just speaks to the inherent goodness that I
Mhm.
believe is in most people, that when we do find the solution and we find the relief, we realize how unnecessary all the suffering is and that there is
Yeah.
a way out. And it does speak to the human goodness that we want to help others. Like we are really all connected,
Yeah.
right? And it, when I see suffering in others, it just, I have that calling. Yeah, I'm sure you do too. I know for sure,
Yeah.
to help others out of their suffering. And so that's another reason why it's so amazing to have a community of people who get it, and who can, we can remind each other of the solution. I think it was like Aristotle or somebody who said that all learning is remembering, right? It's like
Right.
all the answers are within us. We just, get blinded by our emotions. Our emotions color our perspective, and it's difficult to see clearly when we're emotional, right? And
Yeah.
so this is
Yeah.
one reason why we need each other, because we're not all crazy on the same day. Thank God.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And
Exactly.
so, and I did go through that process of having like this epiphany where it was like, oh my gosh, there's this whole other world I knew nothing about. I started discovering these teachers, who were helping me to, they gave me the context, and then they gave me the practical applications. They broke down the steps to applying the information to my life. They helped me to break down the error in my thinking, right? It was the
Mhm.
belief systems that I had. They helped me to break that down and introduce new information that then I was able to receive and assimilate and practice and embody in my life. Right.
Right.
So that's where all the changes happen. So, and that's really, you and I do the type of work where we help people embody. We introduce community, we introduce ideas and activities, the actual application of applying the information. And so, I love, Einstein said that imagination is more powerful than, I forgot what he said, but it's a very powerful force in the universe.
Yep. Creativity.
Creativity, right? So, if you just pause for a moment and imagine how good it would feel to just have a simple, easy practice that will help you to rewire your brain and upgrade your subconscious beliefs, so that you can finally have, like, what would it feel like if you could just take a few minutes to feel the feelings as if it would already happen? What would it feel like to have that peace of mind? What would it feel like to have that confidence to go out and do the things? Like, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? What would you do if you could live authentically? It's important to get a visual image and start feeling the feelings as if it's already happened, of what the possibilities are, right? That creates like this excitement and this momentum to help you move forward. What are we moving to? We already know what we're moving away from. We don't need any reminders about that. This is all about what is pulling you forward, right? I think it's so important. And we do spend some time in the classes um, utilizing these practices. But just to give you a little sliver of hope, it's like, just spend a few moments imagining how good it would feel to actualize and live this way.
And you can do that. You just need the tools. You just need the tools. I mean, it's there. You can
Yeah,
have that feeling. You can create that feeling.
you can create it instantly. Like, you don't even need to take the class, right? Like, if you just spent 10 minutes every day feeling the feelings as if it's already happened, that would start to shift. But typically, we need support, right? We need
Yeah.
help navigating, as I was saying, the default mode network. When we start to break out of that, that's when the fears and doubts come up. And it's so nice. That's why we call it a support system, because we support each other's dreams and ideas and feelings that lead us forward, right? So,
Yeah. And it's like when we're in that space where we have all that self-doubt, it's um, we can lean on others to kind of give us the energy. We can rely on others to help us kind of push us through that, to move to that next space that we need to be in, that we're imagining, that we want,
yeah,
even
and
though
the
we're
interesting
afraid.
thing is that it's actually an act of service to allow somebody else to be of service to you, because being of service is the fastest way I know of to rebuilding that self-esteem. When we're being of service to others, we recognize that we have it in ourselves, right? It's an esteemable
Yes.
act. And so that's why it's just symbiotic relationship, because when you're in that moment of fear and you call on your friend, typically the resistance I hear comes in the form of, I don't want to be a bother to anybody else, right?
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
excuse, our tendency is to want to isolate. But when we isolate, we're really choosing to withdraw an opportunity of service from our friends, and that doesn't really make sense to us, right? Like
It
we
doesn't
want
feel
our,
good.
it doesn't feel good, right? And so follow your heart is probably one of the best pieces of advice I ever got. Is, it's when we are, that's why we help each other out, right? It's an act of
Yeah.
service, and it's we allow ourselves to receive as well.
I like what you said, that it's a symbiotic relationship. It helps everybody involved when we're of service, and when we help others, it helps us, it helps them, and then vice versa. And we just kind of, it's a merry-go-round of support, which
It
actually creates a
is.
lot of positive energy.
It does. Yeah. And that's the positive energy that really carries us through. I love that. Yeah. Let's see. So here's to break it down in sort of like the three-part act, which is the way a lot of people are able to sort of make sense of large concepts, is the three-part act. And so we do it with the morning method. We do it through I call it the magic formula, which is a way of clearing the, not clearing the channel. The magic formula is about that symbiotic community that we develop together, and clearing the channel. A lot of times people are not able to receive because their channel is blocked, so to speak. It's blocked with shame and guilt. And so we go through this process. It's like a forgiveness process. We allow ourselves to receive empathy and compassion and self-acceptance and love, right? By releasing the guilt and shame, that is how we are able to receive the solution and start rebuilding that self-esteem. And it goes back to the idea of the symbiotic relationship, that when we put ourselves first, we are of better service and can have more impact on the people around us.
Yeah.
So, like I was saying, the morning method is really the practice of self-care, right? So, in my mind, it's meditation, journaling, some sort of prayer, right? So, we're focusing on what we do want, not on what we don't want. The magic formula is leveraging the law of attraction. So, like we were talking about, you are actually already using the law of attraction. You're just not using it in a way that benefits you. Where we have those repetitive negative thoughts. So, by introducing exercises like the perfect day exercise, where you write down what your perfect day would look like from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, in as much detail as you can imagine, including the sense of smell, the temperature, touch, the people that you're with, all of your senses, right? So you do your perfect day formula and just focus on that a little bit every day, right? That's literally leveraging the law of attraction to your benefit. You're already using it, just not in a way that serves you. And then let's see if the slide will advance. I don't know why this is so fussy. And I do have some examples of people that have done it, like people in my class. Laura's story, I'll just briefly recap it, that she was like really stuck in her job, and she started visualizing and feeling the feelings as if it already happened in regards to her job. She was actually able to manifest a C-level position that was created for her. It was just magical. I've done the class 8 times, and the transformations and the things that people manifest are just amazing. It's hard to encapsulate all the all the magic, but yeah, it's just cause and effect, right?
Well, it's, I think when you start to put your mind there, the solutions and the opportunities will begin to present themselves because you could see them.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the interesting thing about the law of attraction. We don't need to figure out the details. It's like the universe has your back. It's amazing that once we start shifting our mindset, how different opportunities suddenly start presenting themselves. Sometimes it's something out of the blue or a coincidence. That's how people, a serendipitous moment, like that's how people typically use language around that. What they're talking about is law of attraction actually working. It's just
Mm.
fascinating.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of case studies around that. But let me just tell you a little bit about the workshop itself. So it used to be 6 weeks, but then I added a bonus class on how to address and resolve fears.
Awesome.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, the great thing about this class is that we do the exercises in class so that you actually finish and get the results. We're invoking law of accountability and cause and effect. Um, and so these are the class lessons. So we go into the power of the beliefs and how they're established and how powerful our minds are. All the things about the law of attraction start with the power of beliefs, right? And so we learn to utilize it for our favor. And then I talked briefly about the perfect day exercise. That's part of what we do to create this compelling future, so that when you wake up in the morning and you're tempted to go about your day, you'll remember why you're doing this and focus on that new vision that's going to compel you into this future that you're trying to create. And then the trick here is about identifying and changing limiting beliefs. And I'll just give you the magic formula in this lesson, which is, what is it that you want and why don't you have it? The why don't you have it is the bullshit story that you're telling yourself, right? And so that is an insight into what your limiting beliefs are. And so we go through a process of reframing those limiting beliefs, but really it's literally, what is the belief and what is the positive opposite of that, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, yeah. And being able to share that and talk about it and put it out there, I think really allows you to start to shift it and change it and create beliefs that actually work for you.
100%. Yeah. And then just to quickly wrap up, we do boundary setting, which is, more about relationship shaping. How do we shape our relationships in a way that support us? How do we maintain our own boundaries so that we're not giving all our power away? And then the one that we do besides the addressing and resolving fears is we do a little celebration, right? We do a forgiveness process. Releasing resistance is a freedom process, and then we celebrate lasting changes.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
It,
so that's really kind of encapsulating the whole. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, um, and we are at our time, so I want to be respectful of that. But that's really the whole thing in a nutshell. And if you just took notes and practiced what we talked about today, you can start the transformation today. But if you need support, that's what the workshop is for.
oh, Arlena, thank you so much for sharing it and sharing your wisdom and sharing this stuff for people. I would definitely encourage people to check it out. And that's I know you, and that's why I wanted to do this with you, because I know it will be helpful to a lot of people. So thank you.
Thank you so much for holding this space for me. And I just want to just say how much I appreciate you. I love the work that you're doing. And thanks for letting me talk to your audience.
Oh, you're welcome. Take care.
All right. Have a great day.